Hey guys, it's Ryan. We have a great pod coming up for you guys. I just want to share a couple of quick notes before you take a listen. First is, as we move into the off-season content, we've made the decision we're going to go on a release schedule of every other week. A lot of the content that we're going to dive into in the off-season is going to be like this. It's going to be in depth, and we want to make sure that we have the time and attention to do the research and due diligence before we are releasing these episodes. So look for our next episode to come out on Friday, February 27th, and we'll start that as our normal cadence until we get back into the regular season content in September when NFL kicks off. The other note that I want to make here, specific to this episode, we dive into a lot of betting content, which I think was a great discussion. But I do want to preface this episode. You're about to hear the thought process of people that, bet on sports. And when you bet on sports or bet on anything in life, investing, do it responsibly. I think it's easy to hear stories about people that do this professionally. And, you kind of think I can do that too. And perhaps you can, but more often than not, I really encourage people when they ask me in person, what do you think about sports betting? As someone that's done this for a long time, I just say, do it for fun. Small money, whatever that means to you. If you lose it, it's not going to change your life. It's not going to make you late on rent, lose the house. We don't want that for anyone. It is a tough business. So all that to say, we appreciate the support of the listeners. You make this show special. Excited to be able to release this. And especially for all the content that we've got coming up over the next few months as we lead into the 2026 season. At the end of the day, bet responsibly and just enjoy it. Have fun with it. Don't let this be something that ever turns into something where if you lose that money, it's going to change your life. And with that, all right, guys, here's the show. Hope you enjoy it. Well, it's Friday, February 13th. Friday the 13th, not good omens, but hey, we're here. Super Bowl is passed, and this is going to be a little bit different this week. We're super excited about the off-season content. This is going to be a heavy betting.
How do you spell?
Focus.
How did you spell season there?
SZN.
Okay,
For all you out there. Tag us in the socials. But yeah, it's the 13th, Valentine's Day tomorrow, guys. Just FYI. It's everybody got dialed up for Valentine's this year.
Russo, what you got, buddy? What's kind of the playbook?
Yeah, what's hot right now? Just a little brunch, maybe a little Home Depot. I don't know if we'll have enough time.
I don't know.
Do you have plans, Kyle? Do you have plans?
Yeah, I actually do have brunch booked. I wasn't kidding about that.
Okay, nice.
Ooh, yeah. Maybe a little waffles.
Little espresso martinis.
Little fish.
Yeah.
Ooh, don't hate it.
We're doing
Austin, what do you got going?
We're going to there's like a little concert series in Charlotte, a little orchestra action, which is it's like a candlelight orchestra thing. It sounds cool for the ladies, but it's also like Hans Zimmer's greatest hits.
Oh.
Which is cool for the dudes too.
Kind of like the movie Valentine's Day, which underrated movie, to be honest. You guys ever see that? Valentine's Day, the movie?
I don't think I've seen that, dude.
It's got like
Everybody in it. Taylor
Ashton
Swift's in it.
Kutcher and Taylor Swift's in it.
Yeah.
Jessica Alba. Very hot.
Cool. She was dancing. She was dancing at the Super Bowl, right? Bradley
Who else?
Cooper,
I think she was.
Anne
Bradley
Hathaway,
Cooper.
Julia Roberts.
You got it.
Yeah, dude.
I haven't
Hey.
seen it.
You got
Dude,
it.
you gotta watch it. Watch it on Valentine's Day. One of the scenes is, one of the couples goes to a concert and kind of like what you're talking about. But
Cool.
Anyway.
I gotta watch it.
Speaking of, saw something cool today for the viewers. I don't
It's
know,
an audio. It's an audio
Romanian
template.
Romanian priest.
we do videos.
Yeah, do it live. Romanian priest doing Gregorian chants to EDM. Sounds weird, works. Really cool. Check it out.
Can you define Gregorian chant for me?
Give us a bar. Give us a bar.
Just a little quick. It's like, me, Jesus. That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Do the eyes roll back in the head every time they do
You
it?
have to. You have to.
You have to.
Curl
Part
the
of
toes.
Cinema.
It's Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, curl the
Wow.
toes, baby.
Well, hit up Whole Foods for some flowers. That's kind of my no free ads on this platform, but I will say,
Jeff
I cannot
Bezos
tell you
needs
guys
us.
like how many times I have been like, oh shit, it's Ellen's birthday or it's Valentine's Day, and I just kind of swing by Whole Foods on my way home from work, and you kind of walk in there with no idea, and you just ask for the crowd pleaser to the guy behind the desk.
Yeah.
Or lady. And they kind of figure it out for you.
That's a great idea. I feel like Whole Foods, it's like a little more curated, but same kind of vibes as it's like a high-end Target, you know? You don't know what you need, but you're going to find it in there for the ladies.
And they have like a really nice high-end base, or like high-end looking base.
Yeah, dude.
Where you're out of the door for, you know, $70-$80 at most.
I've never made it out of Whole Foods for less than $70. So
that's flowers.
Yeah,
flowers.
Of course.
Dude, Whole Foods is actually getting a little cheaper than you might think. I think. But we have Publix here, and Publix is so freaking expensive. Anyway, good content. All right, let's dive into it a little bit. So, you know, meat of the show today, we're gonna talk through a lot of betting concepts. I'm gonna give a little bit of a background on myself and sports betting, specifically in the NFL, because we are an NFL podcast, how NFL differs from other sports betting. And I think before we do that, though, obviously Super Bowl, I don't know, kind of lame. Bad Benito was pretty cool. Here's the thing that I didn't understand about the halftime show, and we're not going to go into like the political discourse that is in this country around the halftime show right now. But where I want to have a question for you guys is, if you were sitting in the stands for that show, it doesn't feel like you could even see anything, because they got like all the, you know, the bushes with people. Like, what didn't it used to be that this was like a concert for the people there, and it was just broadcasted? Now it feels like that I was watching like a music video.
Well, one of the league's own Will was at the Super Bowl, and his wife on her socials, Kylie.
We don't use full names on this podcast, but thank you.
Sorry, you can edit that out. Kylie said it was the greatest 12 minutes of her life. So live in the stadium.
Really?
Yeah, live in the stadium.
Huh. But they had like really good seats, I assume.
I mean, yeah, sure. That's the only person I know that was at the Super Bowl, and she apparently had an awesome time at the halftime show.
If you look at the what I think was probably the best halftime show ever, Creed, circa 2006, 2007. Guys were flying around. Chris Stapps, way back. I think I have to go with Youngie on this. I think that was a concert there for the people. He's running around. He's out there on every side of the field. People swinging all over Jerry. What was Jerry World? That's the best. I looked at some photos just on the socials, the Twitters, the X's, and it looked like people were like standing like, what am I supposed to be doing here? That's how it looked to me, at least from
Kyle, the Venn diagram of people who think Creed is the greatest halftime show ever and people who like the Bad Bunny halftime show looks like this.
Dude, best halftime show I thought was probably last year in LA when they did
that was good.
Snoop Dogg and Eminem,
Fitties.
That was awesome.
That was generally, I feel like
that was a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I feel like it's really easy to rip on the halftime show. Everyone, like, hot takes, hater takes are everywhere. That was one that I feel like got universal. This was a sick show,
right?
Which is really hard to do right now.
I mean, is there anybody in the world that doesn't like Snoop Dogg?
He's everywhere, man.
Find me that.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere.
The Olympics,
dude.
He's at the freaking Olympics.
You guys been watching the Olympics?
Yeah.
Not really.
I have to agree with Austin's business partner. This Michaela Schifrin is got the yips. Got the yips, boys.
We don't use full names or partial names on the podcast.
So Ollie threw this just giant rant. We tried to get him to come on the pod to be the opening rant for this week.
He's supposed to be recording right now.
To us what is going on, because I have no context for that text.
All right, so this girl at like 18, which to her credit, she's pretty spoken hot. We were playing downhill skiing.
Okay.
Fast, flying down the mountain.
So like as fast as you can go. The goal is to go as fast as you can down the hill.
They're literally going 80 miles an hour down these mountains.
Right.
Okay.
Around curves and shit.
No, it's pretty actually. I mean,
it's awesome.
It is impressive.
Yeah.
So she won gold at like 18. That was 8 years ago. 4 years ago, I crashed out and didn't medal. And then this time,
but she wins like every world championship every year.
Yeah, she wins all the stuff that doesn't matter.
That matters. I mean, world championship matters. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's not the Olympics.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, the announcer's like, she's the best ever, and she's so good, and then she doesn't win anything except for her win 8 years ago. But what have you done recently? That's all I'm saying.
And then like 8 world championships in a row.
Yeah.
Wait, what? So there's world championships of this stuff?
Yeah, dude. It's like track and field, man. It's like track and field. They have like the
Again, things I don't know about.
Let's put this for off-season content. We'll cover every other obscure sport in their major and minor competitions.
Obscure Sports Quarterly.
Cat meowing at me. It's great. It's gonna go well.
Is that Mila?
Eleanor's
Is that Mila?
freaking Toronto for the week, so
Oh gosh.
like the house is, I mean, it might burn down.
Life. Tell Mila I saved her life.
It's true. You saved Stella's life, but yeah, that's what it is.
All
All right, so that's big scandal. All right, wait, hold on. So before we go that, all right, Super Bowl. Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about 2 things before we go into the meat of the conversation with betting, and we'll do a little opening rant this week. Austin, you threw out this article on The Athletic from Mike Sando, which was, in my estimation, just a total John Schneider suckfest of how he's the greatest GM since sliced bread.
There's no one better, so I mean, I know it's hard for you to think
I
of it.
took a lot of issue with a bunch of things in this article, and I'd like to start here. John Schneider, I think, is a good GM, but it did not take a genius, as Reese the Goose said on our thread, to be able to get Sam Darnold, who had won 14 games in Minnesota the year before, trade away Geno Smith, and
Get rid of Pete
basically
Carroll.
have a free roll on quarterback for the next 3 years. I think everybody in the league was probably trying to do that. At the time, there were a few options for Darnold. What am I missing here?
That is like the biggest hindsight bias comment you could ever make.
He won
Ryan.
14 games the year before. What are you talking
Yeah, and it
about?
crashed out when the games mattered and flamed out in the playoffs. I think
Who
everyone thought it was an
cares?
aberration. He was a backup for the Panthers, Ryan. No one thought he was a second coming. He sucked for the Jets.
He won 14 games last year.
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
how many other quarterbacks won 14 games ever.
Well, then
The
why
list is like
it wasn't
single digits.
he wasn't exactly, like I think obviously it worked out and they won the Super Bowl and they're geniuses and the Vikings GM got fired. Go check out our last pod where we kind of dug into that. But you got to give him credit for zigging where other people zag. Like, it's objectively a ballsy move to get rid of Pete Carroll, right? Pete Carroll, legendary coach, won the Super Bowl, beloved in the city. You dump him, you kind of clean house.
80 years old.
You find some value. He's the most spry 80-year-old in the history of the world, maybe. This dude chews
Maybe
gum like
Biden,
he's
maybe.
20, like he's 24 years old. He chews gum like he's 24 years old. No one's got a more toned jaw than Pete Carroll. That guy can chew gum like nobody else. So I think you get out here, like, you got to give this guy his credit, man. No matter how he did it, won the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. I mean, you got to kind of give him his flowers, do you not?
I'm not
Do you
saying
not?
Schneider's not a good GM. I think he's a top 5 GM in the league from
It's
what I
kind
can
of
see.
suckfest. It's kind of suckfest time. If you pick up Sam Darnold and win the Super Bowl, you deserve to have a little suckfest window. Yeah.
I mean, I guess my take on it is that, Youngie kind of put it out there, but how much? Let me ask you this: on Dakalytics, how much are the Cowboys paying Dak this year?
Oh,
60?
50, 60.
Exactly,
More than 50.
more than 50.
Yeah.
It's
You
like
can
58.
get. You're looking at a cap number of what, 37 million total for Sam Darnold this year. So you have
It's a
20
great deal,
million.
man.
You
It's a
have
great
20
deal.
million to put anywhere. What Sam Darnold was
CA.
top 5 in the MVP. You have Jackson Smith. I will give credit for Schneider on this. He got JSN. JSN
Yeah, dude.
is got him in the first round. Great talent. And was
And he
offensive.
performed.
Offensive what, MVP or no? I don't forget what the
Led
award
the
was.
league in receiving yards this season.
Yeah.
The only reason you didn't get waxed this season,
Right.
basically, Kyle. Let's talk about that for a second.
Well, 100%. But also, I will say where John Schneider has invested. You looking at his D line, that defense was phenomenal. We're talking
Defense
about
was
the
insane,
success
man.
on Darnold. And Darnold's a great hit, but you look at where they're putting all their money. You got Leonard Williams, top of the cap. DeMarcus, great Cowboy, now
Yeah.
top of the cap.
DeMarcus Lawrence, right?
Yeah, you look at DeMarcus Lawrence. You look at just so many names. that they've gotten on good deals.
And they rolled it for Mike McDonald too.
Yeah.
Who obviously worked out. So
I mean, that guy's a fiend. Did you see the article I sent you guys? He's like, I maybe get to see my son 30 minutes a week. I was like, my God.
So here's the thing for me, which I think Sando did not cover in the article, is I think we have to zoom back 2 years. No, 3 years.
So
What was the
Wilson.
Russell Wilson trade?
Kyle, you're a real-time fact checker. Yes or no?
No, it was about 3 years ago. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Whatever. This was 3 to 4 years ago. He basically makes the Bill Belichick move and says, we're just going to move off of this guy. And
22.
Denver,
22.
you have to remember, they gave 3 first-round draft picks for that. That's where this all started. And so it's not that I have a problem with Schneider. It's the way that this was posed in the article that
2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, and a bunch of players too.
That's crazy.
For Russell Wilson. I mean, so that's where I think the genius is. And again, I think Schneider's a very good GM, but that to me was the genesis of all this, because then they started building the defense. They started having the draft capital go. And
so you're okay with the suck fest. You're just mad that they didn't suck the right parts that you wanted them to suck on in the article. That's what's got you all worried?
Correct. If we're going to write a long form article in The Athletic about this, then you should at least do enough due diligence to know where the success ultimately drove itself from. It wasn't because Darnold you got for a song at $30 million a year. Other thing I want to talk about is you guys know I don't really watch college football. I'm trying to a little bit more. Fernando Mendoza, what do you guys generally think? And I want to provide some context here. We're recording on Wednesday. What I have been reading and hearing this week over the past 3 days is there's a lot of GMs that are out there now that are saying they have a lot of hesitation on Mendoza and would not be necessarily taking him as the first overall draft pick. I don't think it's going to move the needle for the Raiders, but the knocks against him are he's not running a pro-style offense. We know that. And the comp for him is Jared Goff is what I keep hearing a lot of.
Ooh, you love that, Ryan.
I love that because I love Jared Goff, but I don't know. If you ask Colin Cowherd, he thinks that he's the next Caleb Williams incarnate Patrick Mahomes. What do you guys think? You guys watched enough of him this year, I assume.
I think the biggest thing that he's got going for him, he's played a lot of games. He's played 36 games in his career. If you look at now, I mean, I'm not saying that he was slinging the ball throughout the yard. I mean, he did throw for 3,500 yards this year, 41 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. Those are some pretty good stats, but he also
won the Heisman Trophy. Yeah.
He won the Heisman Trophy for sure. But he also,
award.
Played at Cal on some not good teams and was mildly successful there. I think that's working for him. I think it's going to be interesting. He showed in the college level some good mobility, especially that big run that led to the touchdown there. I mean, that was just all effort. And that was fantastic. So the Raiders are, and they always have been, a very what's on the paper, looking at the stats, looking
Marcus, baby.
Yes. Who can run fast, who can do all this. He's going to be a huge thing in the draft on what he reads on paper.
He just seems like a nerd. He seems a little Andrew Lucky to me, if we're being honest.
He's even more like Disney Channel than Andrew Luck.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like a theater nerd.
He's like High School Musical Andrew Luck.
Does that translate to an NFL locker room?
If he puts up, man, yeah. It's hard for me to see the Raiders. You know, that's tough. Like being out in Vegas.
He's not gonna have like a bunch of tools around him.
I mean, look at I don't think he's quite this way, but like Russell Wilson, quirky kind of guy, right? But when he's winning Super Bowls and going to the Pro Bowl, everyone deals with it. When he's not as good anymore, it becomes super cringe. So he's kind of got very golden retriever energy. I watched him play a few games, but obviously got a lot of press leading up to the national championship and then the Heisman and everything. He's accurate. He's tall. He's kind of the prototype, right? 6'5", 225. Like he's a big body quarterback, which all these guys love. He's pretty fast.
He's going to gain a bunch of muscle, I assume.
He'll put on some weight. I mean, you got to out in Vegas, right? He's going to get some tats.
You got the boobs.
He's going to get some ink.
I think where he succeeded, not a lot of people are giving his offensive line the credit that they deserve. They did fantastic
Yeah,
in the
man.
run up to the playoffs, giving him a ton of time, giving him some options. I think Signetti put him in position to be successful, and I do think Clay Kubiak is going
Yeah.
to be the Raiders head coach after this big
Yeah.
win. I do think that Kubiak will put him in a position to be successful. I just don't know if the pieces are there on the
They're
offensive
not,
line
dude.
to be successful. Yeah.
Have you
I
seen
mean,
the O-line for the Raiders?
Gino, who can get out of the pocket pretty quickly, looked.
He had .2 seconds to throw the ball every time he
Yeah.
dropped back.
Yeah, I'm curious, the X's and O's stuff. I don't know anything else there on the X's and O's.
If you're the Raiders, you gotta take a quarterback from I'm not Mel Kiper, but it seems like this draft is generally seen as being light on quarterbacks.
Oh, for sure.
So you have to kinda, like, take the best guy. It's not like they're insanely deep and you're
Yeah.
gonna trade that pick away and try to get someone in the 4th, 5th round.
But I don't
Hierarchy of
know, man.
needs.
Like, think
What are you
about
gonna do?
these teams that are winning right now. I mean, I'd be going and I'd maybe be trading a pick or two for Mac Jones. He's been under Shanahan for a year. He's learned a bunch. He played well this year. I've got a guy with experience. Maybe I do that and I don't burn my number one pick
You're
here.
saying try to get like some 2 or 4 picks for the number 1 overall, find someone who's really thirsty.
I think that's the best. I think Youngi's got one of the best ideas there. I mean, you look at the pieces that you have with Ashton Genty. That guy has showed some promise. You've invested a lot of draft capital in him. The two things you have to consider when you're going into the draft are one,
This is your org. You gotta talk about the Raiders. Tell us what's going on.
well, just in general, you gotta take the best player at the position that you need, or are we looking at just taking the best player available that's the best athlete available at that time?
Right.
And I think looking at the position, I think Youngie, you're absolutely right that they have to have a quarterback, but I don't think any quarterback in the NFL is going to be successful without an offensive line and without weapons. We saw that with Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck got beat to absolute crap behind an offensive line, and he's out. He's gone.
But we saw that with Caleb Williams last year. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
there's so
Running
there's so
around
many
for
examples of these.
so many
And obviously
examples.
they had. Here's my bigger concern personally with Kubiak as a new coach and Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza, from everything that you guys have said and from everything that I have dug into, it does seem like he has the tools to be a really good quarterback. I liken him closer to Herbert in the little that I've dug into so far. We'll do more when we get closer to the draft. But the thing that I struggled with Herbert is he never struck me as owning the locker room and being the leader of men. That's fine now because Harbaugh is the guy. You have a strong veteran coach in place who establishes a culture. Kubiak, I have no idea. Is he first-year coach going to be able to come in and establish his culture without some sort of strong quarterback in place from just the mentality perspective? It's got to be one of those guys, in my opinion. And I don't know if it's going to be either.
I think the other thing to think about with the Raiders is they're in the second best cap space situation in the league.
Yeah.
So they got 91 million. I think Titans are first, right? They got
98.
91 million in cap space. So they have options to go sign veteran players, to your point, if they wanted to shore up the offensive line. I think the deal has gotten worse for first round quarterbacks. Kyle, do you know what their current guaranteed deal is these days?
It kind of moves around because it's based on the top 5 players of that when you go to the 5th year option and that kind of stuff. So it kind of moves around, but I think you're right. I think it's about 20 a year.
Yeah. So Caleb Williams was the number 1 pick. He got a $40 million deal, 25 signing bonus over 4 years. If you think Mendoza could be that guy, that's still better than what you're going to get from a Darnold, right?
Well, I think Youngie's point is fantastic. On you look at the guys whose careers have been resurrected.
Everyone that was a backup in Carolina a couple years ago, basically.
Right? Yeah. You look at Baker. You look at Sam Darnold. I think giving Mac Jones another chance is a fantastic idea.
You think Mac Jones is going to be able to play for the Raiders right now with what they got?
No. What I'm saying is,
build the O-line.
If you build the O-line around him, you have Genty, who could be a generational talent.
You got to get some protection.
we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
I'm with you. You trade down, you get the
Like, how
protection,
do
you
you
got
do it, and
Genty.
how quickly do you do it?
If I'm in the Raiders, you have so many holes. If there's somebody that's chomping at the bit for Mendoza, I trade back and I bolster up that offensive line.
Maybe they can. I mean, they don't have great wide receivers either. You can get good wide receiver talent that contributes pretty quickly
I
in the
mean, look at
draft.
Pickens, right? Look at Pickens. He was dying on the
Look at
vine, and they
JSN,
picked him
dude.
up.
Look at JSN. Look at
You're right.
JSN.
You're right.
All
So
right.
I
Well,
think we
yeah,
figured this out. Right, we got
I,
this. We
I think
figured
it's
it out.
interesting. I want to talk about it this week, and I obviously am curious about your guys' opinion just from the X's and O's perspective on Fernando Mendoza. All right, so let's start here. This is going to be a fun show for me, something I've been working on for a while now and want to dig in. I feel like when we were in the middle of the season, there's often times that we're saying certain things when it comes to betting, and my wife had said to me, you really need to do a betting basics show when it comes to the off season to kind of just give a little bit of perspective on what are the things that you're talking about. People don't understand these terms all the time. And how do you think about betting? Um, so let's start here. What I would say to you is most NFL betting conversations kind of start with the matchups and then they kind of end with like the vibes situation when it comes to public betting. But for me, the real edge is the ones that can last. So it's travel, rest, body clock, motivation, all the things that numbers are not necessarily going to tell you how you can feel about a team. And so what I want to go through today, it's not really about picks. It's just kind of about the professional view of NFL betting, NFL games from being a situational better versus a quantitative better. So if you kind of ever felt like at the end of the game, wow, I can't believe that that was so wrong. Or if you go leading into the game, this line feels really long. This is the episode for you. And this kind of breaks down a little bit of how I think about the instincts and hopefully gives you a little bit of feel on when to trust those instincts when we really dig into the nitty gritty on what is building to you feeling that way. And hopefully you can use it as a gut check to see if it's aligning for you or not. So when I say situational better versus quantitative better, what is a quantitative better? Quantitative better in the NFL is they are looking at the player by player matchups and they're modeling those matchups. So they have a deep model for every single player and are using, frankly, much deeper analysis from the X's and O's perspective with advanced metrics, efficiency data, and they're actually simulating projections based off of the players that are going to play in the game. Really complicated. It's something that a lot of us would not be able to do unless you have a little bit of a quant background. And even then, it's really challenging because you have to have a football knowledge on the X's and O's.
They just run kind of a Madden simulation like 1,000 times, basically.
Exactly.
Put it on hard mode.
And that's where a lot of the guys, they specialize in prop betting. They do really well because they have a good framework of football knowledge to be able to do this. And then they take the data and they push it through. The situational better, which is the category where I would fall, is I'm looking for qualitative edges. So it's really comes down to a couple of things that we're going to talk about today, but it's the things that you can see if we're looking at this just from a 1,000-foot view on travel, schedule, rest, psychology behind the game, coaching mismatches. And I do that because I'm not smart enough. I'm, dumb guy when it comes to all this stuff and not able to do the quantitative. The guys that are really good, they work with each other. So they have the quantitative guys working with the situational guys, and that's bliss. So I'll pause there. Questions? Anybody want to jump in? And I guess the caveat here is jump in with questions as you have them. There's no dumb questions in this. Maybe I'll skip past something and not explain it well enough. So if I don't explain it, ask.
So I'll think about this in terms of like, I'll use like picking stocks as a maybe parallel where you've got quants and then you also have, I'm not going to call them vibe investors, but like, yeah, there's a lot of those guys too.
Do we
They,
like the CEO? Do we like
yeah,
the direction
totally.
that they're going,
Personnel,
how they're talking
you meet
about
with the
stuff?
people, the
Yeah.
story, the culture, right? You have investors that do both.
And they're looking
Sure.
at the macro trends, looking at more of the news driven stuff. How is this going to affect the industry as a whole? Where is the stock going to go based off of that versus,
Yeah,
individual stock performance
totally.
against another company?
Do you
Mhm.
have, obviously, people have been successful and unsuccessful with both of those approaches. You've got quants that, quant firms that the model goes sideways, they lose a bunch of money. You've got people that have one meeting with Mark Zuckerberg and they're like, I like this guy and write a check and are billionaires now. How do you kind of assess one versus the other? Like, are they both looking at the other side and feel like, do the quants, are they looking at the field betters and they're like, man, I wish I had that instinct? Are the field betters looking at the quants and they're like, I wish I, was a PhD in math and could do these simulations? Like, is there one that's better than the other? And how do you look at, if you're in that lane, like what other people are doing? I know that you have like other folks in the betting world that you're talking with. What are you doing to get your instincts to improve over time to continue to find an edge?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Is one better than the other? I don't think so. It's just a different approach to your investing thesis. I think both are really important. What I look for is I'm always trying to learn more about the quantitative side. I'm always trying to get a better feel for, subscribe to a lot of data sets like PFF and those that are out there where I can get at least a gut ranking on what is the actual data from previous games show in regards to this defense performs really well against this types of coverage and vice versa on offense. That's where I am always trying to get a little bit smarter on because it helps inform where I may see a line and think that's really wrong, but I'm missing something from the just pure matchup perspective. I think even the quantitative bettors, they likely are using a lot of the qualitative stuff that situational bettors like me are thinking about, just not necessarily from a wide perspective. And I think it's just like anything in life. It's how your mind works and what you are good at and how you think to be able to approach the same problem. And you're typically getting to different answers, but hopefully directionally correct. We also in betting have the market, which helps you kind of like guide your thinking. So with bookmakers out there, and a bookmaker being anybody that's offering odds like your DraftKings, FanDuel, all the way over to Caesars and Westgate and those books. Westgate has typically been the standard as the market maker because they would historically publish the line first before everybody would. And then everybody else would kind of be like, oh, okay, Westgate, published -3.5. We're going to publish -3.5 until the bettors over time, over the week, kind of hone the number and they say, well, I don't like that, or I really like that. And so I'm going to be on one side or the other. And that's how the market gets really efficient over the week, which is one of those things where my biggest edge as a bettor is betting early in the week. So
Yeah.
again, like I'm looking the week before, if there's look ahead lines, I'm also looking Monday morning as soon as, lines open, or now it's like Sunday afternoon for the next week, because I want to see if I have my edge before the book gets honed. So you get some guidance from both sides because you have both types of bettors that are betting this and they're guiding the number to what the market is.
How much are you looking at the injury report and that going into your, I guess, quant, if you would?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's often a blind spot for me. It's one of the last things that I check before I make a bet. It's not something that I'll do a deep dive in unless I see a lot of cluster injury or obviously quarterback injury, large wide receiver injury. I think that is a good transition to where I want to start here. Every single one of us bettors has our power rankings. And so when I say power rankings, this is where I rank every single team on a week to week basis. And I upgrade them or I downgrade them based off of a number of things. So when I'm building my original power rankings, I think about coach. So I'm ranking the coaches individually. I'm ranking the quarterbacks individually. I'm ranking the defenses individually. And defenses is typically coming from stat tools like a PFF or something like that. And if it's preseason, it's from, previous season stuff. And then there's some guys that have really good data out there as far as their draft and trade moves and that sort of thing to help you balance those numbers, because that's, again, quantitative stuff. And then I'm looking at their weapons. So wide receivers, running backs, the key positions, tight ends that are really going to move the needle. It's rare that you get into a position where anybody but a quarterback is going to move a number more than 3 points. Some quarterbacks, if I have a drop from Joe Burrow to who's the guy that was backing up Burrow this year, Browning, that could be like a 6-point drop for me, and it was this year. But if I have JSN is out this week, it's going to be hard for me to drop more than 1 to 2 points to the next wide receiver, because they're just not that important. And it's, again, just like everything in football, how close you are to the ball is equal to how much influence you have on the game. You guys know this. You're both football players. And as we go along the season with my power rankings, I'm evaluating each loss and each win, and I'm either upgrading based off of the week prior or I'm downgrading. And then back to your injury point, Bruce the Goose, the other thing that I think is important is cluster injuries are the things that I'm really looking for.
What
So
does that
if I
mean? What does that mean? Like
so
like in the same position
multiple
group
O
or something?
lines that are
Okay,
O linemen that are out.
I
That's
gotcha. Okay.
they
Like
compound is what I've
the
found.
whole unit is dead.
Totally. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm not really trying to hit 60% of my bets. I'm trying to hit 55% because if I can do that, I can make a ton of money. That's like a very, very profitable business if I'm betting at, 10 big points to the book, right? Minus 110 odds either way. This has gotten complicated over the years, especially the past 2 years, because the books have started juicing the numbers up. Luckily, we've got betting exchanges, and we'll do a little bit more in a different episode about this and kind of like where the betting market as an industry is going. But the betting exchanges are helping bettors that just bet against FanDuel, DraftKings, because they now have to compete with betting exchanges where you can get even odds on either side because you're
You're
betting
talking about
against
like
the
Kalshi,
man, Kalshi, and there's a couple of other.
straight two-way contract, like
Yep.
yes or no bets. Yeah.
Um, so power rankings is where I start, right? They're not my standings, they're just numbers. An example is a really elite team. So the Chiefs in 2023, I had them as, +6, right? A good team like the Packers this year, I had as, +3. Average team, 0, bad team -3, really, really terrible team like the Raiders this year, -6.
But you thought
Um,
the Raiders were going to be a really good team. That took a while.
and some guys do it on 100-point rankings. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but those are the pillars for me. And so then I go to my numbers edge. So the first thing that I'm doing when I'm looking at lines when they get published is I'm saying, okay, does that line make sense? If I have a team that's rated +6 against a team that's rated -6, I expect the line to be somewhere between 10 to 12.
Ooh,
If that's not the case, then I'm like, okay, why is that
that's
not the case?
interesting.
And I want to dig in more because
That's
then I
actually
think that
really
I might have an
interesting.
edge.
That's interesting.
Um,
Can I pause you there? So that's like your handicap, right? You're
totally.
like even like if this was like the most average team, you're handicapping against that. It's like a golf game, right?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
that is a great way to say it. Austin is a 20 handicap and
Whoa,
I'm
hey,
a 2, so he's gonna have to take 18 strokes off of me every single time that we play golf. So
you
it's
heard that on
it's tough
the
for him.
pod. I get 18 strokes next time we play.
Yeah,
Bandon
right.
Dunes.
Bandon Dunes, baby. Oh, dude, pretty excited about the Bandon trip.
I'm really
It's gonna be
excited.
pretty epic. Bruce,
2027
I went
sometime.
last year, dude. It was so epic. Yeah, I really wanted to do a countdown if Gary still had it going of how long he was gonna take to actually get that going. It took like 4 weeks. We could have been doing it on the pod the entire time. Oh man. All right. So
I like
that's
that
where
system, dude. I
that's
didn't
where we
realize
start.
I'm kind of seeing behind the veil here. I like that system.
Yeah. Let's
I
try to,
like that.
you know, behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, I like
What
it.
does Ryan actually do?
I'm too bad you didn't do this like 20 weeks ago. I could have really smoked your ass this year.
All right. And
So
then when we start,
there's a general betting consensus that like if you're looking at a 10, you just talked about a 10 line. Like always take them.
10 point
Always
spread.
take point spread. Always take the 10, right?
no, what I'm saying, Bruce, if I think the game should be -3 and it's -10, I'm going to take the -3 all day. Right. Like I want to find a big differential.
Yeah. Is that literally how you pick your 5 games of the week? Are you looking for the biggest
So
differentials?
that's where I start, right? And that's
Okay.
where most of us start is on our power rankings. Then where do I go?
Interesting.
So
Okay.
then I'm going to the physical edge. That is travel and schedule. So home field, we used to assign 3-point value for the home field advantage. That had a lot to do with travel used to be a lot harder, 10, 15 years ago. And the reality now is these guys are flying on private jets. They're on lay flat seats. The travel has gotten a lot easier, and the fans seem to be traveling a lot more. Unless you're in Green Bay or Pittsburgh or some of these specific fields, you have a mix of fans from the home team and away team more than we've ever seen in the NFL. So
I
now
feel
it's
like the
closer to like a 1 to 2 point advantage is what
and
I
I
assign.
feel like the only games that I hear you really hammer the travel is when they're doing one of these Europe games or
Totally.
something.
So the longer the travel, the worse it is. Either way. What I think is important here is West Coast team having to go to the East Coast is brutal. So you often hear me say, "Oh, the Niners are in Jacksonville this week and they're playing the 1 p.m. Eastern game." Man, body clock time, that is 9 a.m. for them. That's brutal. These teams don't typically travel until a day or two before. You don't have your time to adjust. That may not seem like a big deal. You guys both played football. That seems like a huge deal to me. It messes with your routine, it messes with your pregame, body clock being off, especially the older that you get. We saw this with Tom Brady as he got older in the league. The one thing we talk about is like night games with Tom Brady. He just started to fade. And it was almost like it was time for bed for him every single
I
week.
get that, man. I mean, we
Um,
all get that. We all get that.
and yeah, we'll talk about the international travel here in a second, but it's also just general organization. So my body clock, the home field advantage, that's one thing. The other portion of this is the organization that it takes to move the structure of the NFL team from your home base is really challenging. These are large companies that you're moving and things get missed, right? You hear some of these guys talk about, my favorite gloves weren't in the locker room today. And you're like, does that matter? I don't know. It would matter to me if I'm actually on the field. And so I think a lot of the time we think of these guys as like robots or machines that they're just going to perform regardless. But those are really important things. And, you were sitting on a plane, your body got a little messed up, you're in a hotel, just like all of us, we crave routine. And when we get out of that, something gets messed up, it's going to throw you off. So it's more than just when I say travel, there's a lot that's built into travel and why I think that's important.
You're signing 1 to 3 points for that?
Yes. Typically 1 to 2 points now. If it's a West Coast team that's playing in the 10 p.m. Eastern slot, I assign closer to 3 points just because of the travel itself. And if it's you're playing, in Pittsburgh where they're going to have a strong home field advantage, I'm going to assign another 2 points for that because it's really strong home field advantage. And it also depends on the spot. Have they been traveling a bunch prior to this, right? Have they been at home? If you stack the travel and it builds up, I'm typically really trying to fade that second or third spot. 2 back-to-back weeks on the road, I'm thinking much harder about the fact that they were just on the road and they got to go do it again. All of this stuff seems to compound over time. The international stuff is wild. My favorite thing to bet is first-time head coaches going international. The level of sophistication and organization you have to move, everything from the business people to the locker room people, making sure that all the equipment's good. I mean, it is non-trivial what you're asking these teams to do to go and play in Germany 1 week and then come back. What I also really enjoy is if I've got a team like the Jaguars. Jaguars typically play in London twice a year and they do it back to back. I'm almost always betting on the Jags that second week because they have been there, they've gotten a rhythm, and the other team is coming in for their first week. It's something that's been really successful for me, and I think we tend to undervalue how important that stuff is. Other things are being intentional with preparation. So a lot of the time you'll see some of these West Coast teams where they'll be playing the Ravens 1 week and then they're playing the Giants the next week. Some of these guys go and fly back home because they want the guys to be at home and not be sitting in a hotel. Somebody like McVay has made a habit of saying, hey, we're going to go to the Greenbrier in West Virginia for the week, and we're just going to stay on the East Coast. We're going to take this as an advantage because we're going to build camaraderie. The team's going to be together for the full week. We can get way more done than we could do if we're spending 6 hours on a plane both ways and having the guys go home. That to me is a really big advantage. So you have to look at those pieces too. So that's travel. Then I look at weather. Weather doesn't really matter as much to me as you might think it would. Wind is really the critical thing. If it's windy above 15 miles an hour, that's when it has a real big effect on the game. So if I'm looking at 15 to 20 to 25, 30 mile an hour winds, I'm typically just going and hammering the under as soon as I possibly can. It throws the ball flight off. It makes it really, really challenging for these guys to throw it down the field. You're going to have to rely more heavily on the running game. Same thing with rain and snow, but rain and snow really has to build up. It's got to be pouring or it's got to be a ton of snow for me to really feel like it's going to move the total for me one way or another. The other thing that I think about is there are specific cities that you want to be careful of. So like the Vegas effect is really real, right?
Like someone's going to go to jail. Someone's going to be, I mean, that's like the Cowboys receivers, right?
These guys are at a strip club until 4 a.m. Yeah. That's real.
That was a hilarious intro to that game because they're like, these two guys are taking it was Pickens and CD had to sit out that first drive. Remember that? and the announcers knew like they were at the club, but they were like, I think they violated a team policy, and so they're having to think about it. And you're like, you know what they were doing
You know what
till
they were doing.
yeah,
Yeah, man. I mean, it's
Dickens and
just,
CD out till like 4 a.m.
dude, it's so real.
Are there any other cities? Is New York like that? Are there cities that do that, or
So
is that a very
in
small thing?
So one of the things that I guess could be under the weather category, and I'll get to your question here in a second, Austin, is the northern teams going to Miami in the middle of the winter, or Miami going to Buffalo in the middle of winter. We think about it for Tua going to Buffalo and how cold he's going to be. But the opposite is true too, where you've got guys who have been in Buffalo for the past month and it's consistently 30 degrees. And then you go down to 80-degree weather, your body is not prepared for that. You're going to get tired more quickly.
Is this true? I only ever played in kind of hot weather. Is it true the other way?
In college, we played up in Northern Iowa. It was a dome, but even just with kind of the walk around, the walkthroughs and that kind of stuff, when we played up in Fargo, was super cold. Being on a plane, getting out there, experiencing that. Even if you played inside, because Fargo has a dome, even playing inside
Cold.
you still feel it. I mean, you really feel it
What
in
about
the
the other way?
joints. I
I feel like that would be easier the other way, right?
it kind of is easier, but I would say what's so different about being up there as opposed to Miami is the humidity. I think if you're playing in Arizona and you've been in Buffalo,
Like
I think
dry
I
heat,
think that's significantly
LA.
different than playing in
In Miami.
Miami. Yeah, or
Yeah.
even Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And then and then also Miami is another city where I'm like, I don't know, these guys are probably out until 3 a.m. So weather, travel, that sort of stuff, that's what I think about. And then there's the like psychological stuff. So this is prime time effect. Some of these guys, they love the bright lights. Big players, big plays, big games. They are going to show up for those games.
Drake May.
Lamar is a perfect example of this. I love betting Lamar in a primetime game because he's just got that dog in him. And he's like, I don't really talk very much. I want to show the world what's going on in the building here with the Ravens. Burrow's the same way. The other piece here is when we talk about psychological stuff, I say this all the time, Austin, and I've said this past season, in division games, man, there is such a difference.
Yeah.
The Ravens playing the Broncos, not a division game, versus them playing the Bengals. They see these guys twice a year. They hate them. Like the rivalry is real in the NFL. These are pro athletes and they want to perform. So the big thing that I take away there is we see some of these times where in division games, the Giants are giving 10 points to the Cowboys. I'm like, there's no way, right? And the Giants have not won a game all year, and the Cowboys won 7 in a row. I'm like, no. Like, this is a division game. I am taking plus 10 with the Giants every single time because they tend to be tighter spreads in the games at the end of the day.
I don't buy. I mean, from someone that was able to support my family betting off of you for the last few years, some of this stuff.
I've had a profitable year every single year, just to be very clear, since we've been doing this for about 6 years.
And we have a $150 game. But I do feel like the psychological edge, you have gotten me more times than not on these things. I feel like these are almost just like heuristics or biases that people don't account for. And I've been smoked on some of these, especially you'll throw out a little 3.5, 4 point spread for AFC North. I feel like you've gotten me half a dozen times on those games. So I think there's definitely there's a little bit of smoke on these, maybe more than the others, in my opinion.
That's fair.
You've gotten me more on these than anything else, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I'll ask you after the week, I'll be like, what the heck? And you'll be like, that was a dream crusher spot. I feel like you have a pretty good read on some of these things.
The spot is really important. So, Austin, to your point on like Dream Crusher, there's also these look ahead spots. So
Like
if
the
I
letdown game, the look ahead, yeah, you've got me on those.
a look ahead game, I am, I'm the Chiefs playing the Raiders this week, and I think the Raiders were favored by 10 points, and I've got the Bengals next week. I am looking ahead to the Bengals because I'm about to play Burrow. And those are the spots where, man, I mean, the dog is going to typically cover in those spots. because the Chiefs are just they're they're not focused on that game. So that can be a total flat spot. You also have desperation games where, towards the end of the season, guys are trying to make the playoffs, or they're trying to show tape. That's a very real thing.
During a contract year, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Just fired the coach, there is this weird bounce back that always happens for 1 week when you just fire the coach. And I can't explain it. Even if it was somebody that they liked in the building, the team seems to rally for the next guy and they play harder and they seem to show up. Dream Crushers are, man, I mean, we thought we had it going this year and it just all died. It might be we're not making the playoffs. It may not be as obvious as that. Dream Crushers
Dude,
are very
I feel like I've
situational.
had, or is that a situation where they don't have anything to play for, and in fact they probably have an incentive to lose the game? There's no air left in the balloon, right? They're just going to show up flat.
Yep.
I feel like that is really hard to bet. And I think you may have been more successful than me, but some of those games down, it's hard to know at the end of the season when guys are mathematically eliminated. Maybe strategically it's better for them to dive, but then you'll like the freaking Giants where I feel like they have every reason to lose a game,
Right.
and they'll have their best outing of the year and play
Dude,
out of their minds.
Here's
So
the
I feel
other
like
piece you got to balance with the, you're out of
individual
it.
contracts, and they're trying to put up,
Dude,
like,
not
they have
only that,
incentive.
dude, these guys get paid to play football too. We think, this team's really bad, like the Raiders this year. Dude, these guys are the top 0.00001% of athletes in the world. You think that they want to go out and get embarrassed on the field? No. It's a pride thing for them at the end of the day too. And the difference, at least from my perspective, I'm curious your guys' perspective here as having been football players at the levels that you were. The difference between a top linebacker and the guy that is just below them, or the guy that is the worst linebacker in the league, it's not that big of a difference, is it? They're still professional athletes.
I had just come off of 5 years of college football, was all conference my senior year, playing Division I football. After that, went to work, not as a player, but with the Raiders. And the difference between where I was, Division I, top of the conference, so what, in the top 2% of all players in that Division I conference, to what I saw on the field was a huge gap. But I think you are right. Once you get there, once you're there, that's why we can see, replacing those running backs so easily. Once you're there, there's not too much separation between greatness and just your run-of-the-mill NFL player.
I mean, the guys on the practice squad are pretty freaking good.
They're really good. The guys in the practice squad were first team All ACC, All Big Ten, Missouri Valley, whatever it was. They were right there.
I mean, they're still getting paid $750,000 a year, league minimum, to play in this league. So, yeah, go ahead.
The one thing on the other side of the coin, you talked about guys that are in a contract year. I think Austin may have brought that up. I think the other side of the coin too is once those guys get paid, we definitely see a gigantic fall off because they've reached the pinnacle. They've got that money. And I think you see that more in people that have all these high expectations. They wait till maybe their fourth or fifth year to really perform, get that big paycheck, and then gigantic fall off. And so as far as betting and looking at who's going to have a great year, I think we definitely need to look at that.
I feel like I feel that because, we're Cowboys fans and, lived through the Ezekiel Elliott saga. But I'm curious how often that is a statistical thing, because I feel like when it happens, but you may be oblivious to the guys that get a big payday and keep showing up because you're like, oh, of course they're playing great, they got paid, right?
Well, I mean, just look at the Cowboys just this year. Deron Bland got a huge paycheck. Trash.
Sucks.
Diggs, a huge paycheck. Out of the team, almost out of the
You're
league.
talking about Cowboys DB.
Yeah,
Diggs?
Cowboys DB Diggs. Yeah, and that goes around. I mean, you look at, as a Titans fan, with Youngie, what was that guy, Haynesworth? That guy got paid for the Titans, couldn't pass the PT test, so just to get on the field.
Yeah, man.
Let's put that on the list for data dives along with the GM rankings. I want to get one of those data sets, run it out over a 10-year period with those contract dates and see against a normal regression of just aging within a position group, do you see a meaningful drop off when guys get the big contract?
Yeah.
Yeah. My last thing on the psychological stuff, people think I'm joking when I say this, but I actually want to know what uniforms they're wearing. When the Bengals are wearing their all whites, or when the Ravens are wearing
oh
their
my
all
God.
blacks, you
Dude,
think
when Bengals are all white, I feel like you put the whole book on the all white Bengals.
Rock hard.
Yes.
here's
You
the thing.
got to yes.
For me, it goes back to Deion Sanders. Look good, feel good, play good. That is a real thing. That's true for our professional lives. If you dress for success, people joke about that. That's a real thing. Dress for the job that you want, not the job that you're in.
Why do you think we wear golf hoodies every day, right?
Trying to be a professional golfer, got to get on the range, got to grind. Now, we'll keep it moving here. There's obviously a bunch more stuff, and we can keep touching this stuff, especially as we go into next season. We'd love to bring it back up. But I think the last thing is the key numbers. So
Key numbers.
I say key number a lot. Let's just talk about what key numbers mean. Key numbers I think about in the NFL in two ways. So you obviously have spreads and then you have totals. On the spreads, the key numbers are 3, 7, 10, 14. 6 has become more of a key number over the past few years. If you look at the distribution of the margin of victory, which I have a little chart in our notes here,
I love that, by the way.
look at where 3 lands, right? 19% versus 2 being 4.5%, 9 being 1.8%. And then the second one is 7, right? So 11.5%. That is a huge, huge number of times where the coin is going to fall. And so my important takeaway here is when we see a minus 3.5, I got to think, well, it's likely going to lay 3 at the end of the game, or 7 or 10. It's going to be one of these key numbers. Do I feel good with the hook being that 0.5? And then the opposite way, when I'm getting 3.5 points for the side that I like, it really helps me there. That's the margin of victory stuff and the spreads. So again, that's 3, that's 6, 7, 10, and 14. I will say generally in the NFL, this is very different from college where, if you see a spread over 10, when it starts going to 14, it is so hard for me to not just take the points.
Yeah,
I mean, regardless of the team.
Same.
Totals, same way. So your key numbers on totals are 37, 41, 43, 44, 47, 51. Some are more important than others. In my world specifically, especially just where they land totals these days, 43 and 41 are the most key numbers. Once we start going to the bigger stuff, 47 and 51 are the key numbers there. So that's why I say, hey, if you're looking at the under on a game and it's hovering around 43, wait for that 43.5 to pop up, because the distribution there it's not as big as the margin of victory as you would expect, right? Because there's more outcomes that can happen here, but it's still really important. So I take all of these things into account, and I start with my power rankings, and then I take all of the qualitative stuff I added in and just try to get to, okay, do I think, 1, I'm on the right side here? 2, do I not know something that's going on that everybody else knows? And that could be like an injury, right? That could be, something in the building that's leaked that I didn't see the news story on today. And if I can't explain a number later in the week, I have a real problem. If I can't explain the number when it opens, I'm just firing on it because I'm taking my power rankings and I know that I can beat opening numbers better than I can beat the closing numbers. It's really just about numbers, and you got to take in all the qualitative stuff and kind of bake it all in. So that was my hour long on situational betting.
That was awesome, dude.
Give us a 2-minute rundown on wasted management.
Dude, waste management, we were in a box on 16, which, if I'm only going to do it one time, was a very epic way to do it. It was my brother-in-law who hooked me up. It was a charity auction thing that he won. It was with a broader construction group, and they've gone like 8 years in a row. And so there was a guy there you would have loved this guy, Ryan. He brought a whiteboard with him to waste management. In every hole, he did a 3x3 square of golfer in that group across the top, 1, 2, 3 down. You could buy a square for $5 or $10, and you're betting who's going to be closest to the pin and how many golfers would make it on the green. and then whoever won that box would get that round's pot. I mean, he was cycling through, and then if everyone missed the green, they would roll the whole pot over to the next round. There was probably 25 guys in this group that went out there on Thursday, but there wasn't like hard walls on the box. They were all open with like a little barrier. The two groups that were next to ours were all in on the action too. So there was some where there's probably 150, $200 for that group in the pot. Roll it over to the next round.
Dude, that's
So we
awesome.
like Thursday. I feel like you could like there was still a pretty festive environment. Some of the guys in that same group stayed till Saturday, so they went back on. They went back on Friday. They went back on Saturday. Apparently, the people that were the vets are like what we did today compared to the next 2 days out here is a little warm up child's play. But
yeah, they
it
say
was
Saturday is nuts there.
Friday, what they said was equally as crazy in terms of how hard they go out there. The two things that really stood out to me were when you watch 16 on TV out there, obviously they have the cameras behind the general seating area.
Yeah.
I think what was surprising to me is because we were right behind the tee box on the second level. So we're looking at the whole 16th hole. The build out is insane for a non-permanent structure, was crazy. The general seating area is, I don't know, 5%, 10% of all the seats that are there. It's all boxes.
Dude,
It's
that's
all corporate.
nuts.
So you would not, I think you get the impression and you see the people that are like lining up to run in, in the morning at 5 a.m. In my mind, I got the sense that it was 80%
Right.
open access that people run and hang out, but it is the opposite, man. It's all corporate. It's all boxes. I think the way they show the camera definitely distorts the reality of the seating out there.
Right.
If I ever came back, unless you have this crazy hookup and like you do have to get out there at 4 a.m. and there's not that many seats. So that was a little sad. I feel like for the fans that probably love going out there, you're like, I kind of wish it was more like just way more seating for the fans. Although there was over 100 arrests still, even though the Thunderbirds have been locking down on the extreme shenanigans, which, I mean, they do a great job running that tournament. But I feel like it's 16th at Waste Management, 17th at TPC Sawgrass, maybe 16th at Augusta. There's maybe less than a handful of truly iconic par threes on the PGA Tour. Man, this is like you see it on TV. It's just like a fun tournament every year.
13 at the Colonial, right?
That Colonial. So it was like, as a golf fan, this is a cool event.
Yeah.
And if you love golf, you're like, this is freaking awesome to be seeing these shots. Like Michael Phelps was out there for some country music. It was cool people watching too.
Kind of like when you go to the Masters.
It was like Augusta, I feel like it was more like going to the Players. Where there's like I feel like
which was
TPC's
called the best major by Brandel Chambly this week.
They're fishing. I mean, obviously the PGA Tour is trying to get it as a
major, to be clear.
Yeah, but I feel like there are a few really recognizable holes. Like 16, 17, and 18 are very recognizable. At that golf tournament. At Augusta, like every hole is iconic. Same thing with like TPC Sawgrass. As you're walking around the course, you recognize every hole just about. Those last few holes at Waste Management, they just do a great job with the drama on those three holes.
Yeah.
You got to go through the crazy ass gauntlet of 16, that huge risk reward, par 4, 3, 17. And then
on the left, you could easily go in it every single time.
You could easily go in
green.
It.
I mean,
yes, you see, like if you're trying to make an eagle on that hole and press it,
dude,
like there's risk everywhere. And then 18 is like
hard hole.
If you have to get a birdie, hard hold, you got a diagonal cutting fairway.
Yep. I mean, you got to
like
get up.
Those crazy bunker complexes. So it's like the rest of the course. We walked in on the front nine and walked most of the front.
Okay.
A lot of those holes feel like a resort course in that area. Nice golf. But you're really not watching much of the front nine when you watch it on TV. So, but those last few holes and the way they built it up, dude, this is a big time event.
The thing that's nuts to me, they were saying this on the broadcast, is they have been building that stuff since September 1st.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that long.
Why not just make it permanent at that point?
Dude, I feel like they should make it permanent because Kyle, we were out there, we played that sister course for your bachelor party a few years ago. If you are going to that golf course in the off season and you want to play the Champions course at TPC Scottsdale, it would be so much more epic to have the build out.
Dude, John's played it and he said it was kind of whatever because you're like playing the holes, but without the stands there, it's
I feel like because there's two, it's kind of like TPC Sawgrass where they have two courses attached to the complex there. we played the sister course for Kyle's bachelor party, but I feel like we were looking out on the other course when we were at the range, and it's not physically distinct. The par 3 looks completely different if you don't have
Right.
the build up. It would be better for the rates and bookings for them if they kept that stuff up year round. You're in the Coliseum out there. You could actually simulate the pressure of playing in front of all those people and see it.
I mean,
other
especially
than,
if they're building it for 5 months of the year anyway, and having to take it down, it probably takes them another 2 months.
it's a big structure, man. I feel like maybe 17 and 18, you take those down, but like 16, I feel like you just make that a permanent fixture out there.
Yeah, pretty nuts.
It was cool though.
Sounds like an awesome time.
Yeah. All right,
And
boys.
we're gonna be out there in 5 weeks.
Yeah, buddy.
Good time.
We are, baby. Enjoyed it. This is fun. Thank you guys for joining.
Ryan, thanks
Been
for
real,
letting us see
guys.
behind the curtain, buddy. That was awesome.
That was
Hopefully
good.
It was helpful.
Was. Be good, boys.
What they know about this, that? I got the bars, we can have a little chit chat. Too fake with it, nah, never been that. Float is dead, you might as well bin that. Chuck it in the bin, bye bye. Bars will hit like a mad drive by. Man, when I pat on the back, high five.